Hello everyone, I'm Riley King. Welcome to this Sunday edition of New Hampshire Political Insight. We got a jam-packed broadcast to get to this Sunday, so let's begin right now with your Sunday edition of New Hampshire Political Insight. First up, Republican Vice President candidate Senator J.D. Vance to visit New Hampshire. Let's take a listen to that report from WR News 9.
The first time you turn on the heat this year will be the same day you remember that it wasn't working that great last year. Just call Heritage Home Service and save $50 on any heating repair. Be ready for winter. Just call heritage.com.
With just 3 days to go, Vice Presidential hopeful J.D. Vance will be here at the New England Sports Center tomorrow, and political experts say we can expect high energy, lots of enthusiasm, and even one last push to any New Hampshire voters who may still be undecided. Political analyst Scott Spradling says Senator J.D. Vance and Donald Trump Jr. are making time for New Hampshire voters now to paint a final picture of what the next Trump presidency would look like.
What their top priorities are, I think there's no doubt we'll hear about the economy. There's no doubt we'll hear about immigration. But I'm sure he will also articulate why we shouldn't be voting for Kamala Harris and Walz. Because if it's close, they might be thinking they can take the state.
The latest polling from St. Anselm College has Vice President Harris at a 5-point lead in the Granite State. But Spradling says the Trump-Vance campaign will be looking to tomorrow's rally to help move the needle despite that data.
If the polls are wrong and this is neck and neck, enthusiasm matters. And national and state polls have shown that pound for pound, Republicans and Trump supporters are more enthusiastic about Tuesday and Election Day than Democrats and Harris supporters.
Donald Trump himself spending no time here since the first-in-the-nation primary.
This is really just reflective of the fact that there are just a handful of other states in the country that are that much closer in the polls.
But in this 11th hour of the race for the White House, Spradling says Vance and Trump Jr. will be just as effective in spreading the message of his campaign.
We just saw Bill Clinton in the state doing the exact same thing for New Hampshire Democrats. It's a smart idea strategically for Republicans to keep some type of a buzz in New Hampshire.
In Derry, Imani Fleming, WMUR News 9.
Okay, and there you go on that report. Candidates for New Hampshire push to earn last-minute vote before Election Day. Let's take a listen to that report from WMUR News 9.
Life's big moments can be
Vanessa, there's something I've wanted to ask you for a long time.
nerve-wracking.
Easton for the city. There when you need it.
Yes!
Eastern Propane and Oil, there for you during life's big moments.
The final push is on. Republican Kelly Ayotte and Democrat Joyce Craig hitting the campaign trail hard ahead of Election Day.
I hear from people, hey, don't increase my taxes. That's such an important issue.
People are concerned about the lack of housing in our state. They're concerned about public education not being funded.
The Craig team knocking doors in Milford. The former Manchester mayor looking to flip the State House corner office back to the Democrats for the first time since 2018.
I have the executive experience being mayor of the city of Manchester. I've tackled many of our statewide challenges.
In Auburn, Ayotte meeting with voters as she crisscrosses New Hampshire. The former U.S. senator saying she's aiming to build off the last 6 years of leadership under Governor Chris Sununu.
We'll take on the housing crisis, we'll strengthen our mental health system, and we're going to improve education for everyone.
From early on in this race, abortion rights have been a key issue out in the campaign trail. Craig has criticized Ayotte's voting record in the U.S. Senate on reproductive rights. Meanwhile, Ayotte says she fully supports and would not change New Hampshire's current abortion laws.
I believe that there's a consensus in that law, and if anything more restrictive is sent to my desk, I'll veto it.
She's voted to defund Planned Parenthood. She shepherded Neil Gorsuch through the Supreme Court process and then celebrated when Roe v. Wade was overturned.
Underneath all the issues is massive campaign spending. Ayotte taking in more than $21 million. Craig collecting around $7 million. Both campaigns seeing significant money coming from their party's national governors associations. With just a few days left until the election, the latest polling from St. Anselm College showing Aon is holding on to a narrow 3-point lead over Craig. Ross Ketchke, WMUR News 9.
Okay, and there you go on that report. Good information there. What you need to know before heading to the polls in New Hampshire on Tuesday. Let's take a listen to that report from WMUR News 9.
What should you do if you don't have an ID when going to the polls on election day?
Then they will vote by what's called an affidavit ballot, where the moderator will collect information, but the voter has 7 days to bring the proof of identity back to the town clerk or the Secretary of State to establish their identity to make sure their ballot counts.
Are you allowed to cast a ballot if you're still in line when your polling place closes?
The moderator will locate the end of the line, and everybody that is in line up to that point will be able to continue through the process and exercise the right to vote.
When will New Hampshire absentee ballots be counted?
The absentee ballots are counted along with the other ballots that were cast on the day of the election. They are not counted in advance.
Will there be security at polling places?
We encourage the local election officials to make sure that there's a police officer on duty.
What are you allowed to bring inside a polling place and what isn't allowed?
You can bring in materials that will help you make the choices that you want to make on the ballot. They can't carry a campaign sign in with them, though. The moderator will establish an electioneering zone.
Can voting machines in New Hampshire be hacked?
They're not connected to Wi-Fi or Bluetooth or the internet. And so we've really limited the ability of somebody to be able to hack into those devices.
And for more information and details on when your polling place opens and closes on Tuesday, you can visit our website or our mobile app. In the studio tonight, Imani Fleming, WMUR News 9.
Okay, and there you go on that report. That's good information right there for all of you. Recently, more than 10,000 Granite Staters took part in a mock election recently. Let's take a listen to that report from WMUR News 9.
Life's big moments can be
Vanessa, there's something I've wanted to ask you for a long time.
nerve-wracking.
Easton for the save. There when you need us.
Yes!
Eastern Propane and Oil, there for you during life's big moments.
Local students are getting a taste of the election process thanks to a mock election.
More than 10,000 elementary, middle, and high schoolers recently took part in the program organized by New Hampshire PBS. The students came up with a split ticket. Republican Donald Trump won the presidential vote, and Republican Kelly Ayotte won the governor's race.
Meanwhile, Democrats Chris Pappas and Maggie Goodlander won the mock election in the 1st and 2nd congressional districts.
Okay, and there you go on that report. Very interesting there. Recently, former President Clinton was in New Hampshire and he talked to Harris campaign volunteers in Portsmouth and Nashua. Let's take a listen to that report from WMUR News 9.
Life's big moments can be
Vanessa, there's something I've wanted to ask you for a long time.
nerve-wracking.
Easton for the save. There when you need us.
Yes!
Eastern Propane and Oil, there for you during life's big moments.
It's go time, New Hampshire! Let's get it done!
A packed roster of Democrats rallying Granite State voters in Nashua to vote blue up and down the ticket.
We've got 100 hours to elect our next president of the United States of America, Kamala Harris.
Are we ready to win on Tuesday?
The night headlined by former President Bill Clinton, back in the state that helped save his first run for the White House more than 30 years ago.
It's nice to be in a place where the guys are not afraid to vote for a woman.
Clinton highlighting the economy and abortion rights as top issues on the ballot and criticizing what he calls the divisive leadership of Republican Donald Trump.
Most Americans, a majority, are sick and tired of this us versus them juvenile behavior.
Outside, supporters telling News 9 they're anxiously waiting to head to the polls on Tuesday.
It'll be stressful going into it, but I'm feeling hopeful for Kamala Harris.
Before the rally, local Republican women criticizing Clinton's treatment of other women and arguing that Vice President Kamala Harris has failed to address issues tackled by the then president in the 1990s.
Reject fear-mongering of the Democrats and disgraceful way Bill Clinton has treated women when he was in political power.
He actually tried to control the border. Harris has ignored it.
Now, just in the last few weeks, polling shows the race for the presidency here in New Hampshire has only gotten closer. The most recent poll from St. Anselm College shows that Kamala Harris right now is holding on to a roughly 5-point lead among Granite State voters going into the election. Live in Nashua, Ross Ketchke, WMUR News 9.
Okay, and there you go on that report. Presidential campaigns use podcasts and influencers to reach their voters. Let's take a listen to that report from WMUR News 9.
Life's big moments.
I can't believe it!
I'm gonna be a father. Can knock you off your feet. I'm gonna be a father. Eastern Propane is always there to keep you comfortable. Eastern Propane and Oil, there for you during life's big moments.
Come spend an afternoon with me as a working mom of two who is entirely remote.
Alex McGann's nearly 100,000 TikTok followers started popping up after sharing videos of her family.
A few of those went viral and I started gaining a following.
Since she's branched out into more day-in-the-life content and also about the 2024 election. She's a member of a program called NH Creators for Kamala, local influencers that share voting information and why they're supporting the candidate.
Voting is a privilege that we must exercise. In my opinion, I think there's just too much on the line at this point.
It's a new tactic to get out the message to younger voters and a way to keep with the times in a particularly tight race.
The campaigns can't rest on their laurels. They need to try to reach folks who might not be paying attention to traditional news sources.
Another way they're doing that is behind the podcast mic. Republican Donald Trump's recent 3-hour sit-down on the Joe Rogan Experience has 42 million views and counting on YouTube.
For an undecided voter, like for instance, Trump going on Joe Rogan was fantastic for his base.
But the big question, will all this work?
I don't know, and I don't think we will really have a sense of that until after the election.
Now, according to the Pew Research Center, 2/3 of adults ages 18 to 29 had listened to a podcast in a recent 12-month span.
Okay, and there you go on that report. That does it for this edition of New Hampshire Political Insight. Thank you for tuning in and watching. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday. I'll see you back here next Sunday for another edition of New Hampshire Political Insight. Goodbye, everyone.